Hi, and welcome to Sunday Soul Food. I am David Strickle, also known as the Stream of David, and I am the creator of the Time Mindset Practice. And I've been doing these Sunday Soul Foods for not quite 2 years. And I think that we're going to retire Sunday Soul Food and start doing perhaps an evening weekday show because a lot of you have commented that the weekends, you're not as available to do things like this as you maybe would be during the week. And so we're going to look at changing that. We may put a poll out for all of you Patreon subscribers out there about what the most popular times and days or evenings would be um, for something new that is like this. It probably won't be Sunday Soul Food since it won't be on Sundays anymore, but that's okay. It'll be soul food nonetheless, as long as you believe that it is, because that makes all the difference, as you know. Today, I want to talk about the perfection of imperfection. Sometimes it seems maybe like this is all I talk about. But what I have come to understand and my connection to source, that which we call the stream, that the imperfection created by the polarity of the human experience or the polarity of any physical experience, but in this case, we're focusing on humanity because we're part of humanity in this current experience that we're in. The purpose is expansion, and expansion is derived by creation, creation of new thought, creation of new desires. Certainly, we come to this beautiful environment. And I have to tell you, in my opinion, there is no place more beautiful than Southern California where I live. And it is a glorious day here today. It is absolutely amazing. It's still cool in the mornings. We've had a very cool winter. I live in the desert of Coachella Valley. And it's just been the weather this year has just been absolutely incredible. I don't like extremes. We talk about polarity a lot. Maybe that's born of that. I don't like it when it's really, really hot, and I don't like things when it's really, really cold. I don't want to live in the snow. I don't want to live in the ice. I don't want to be freezing all the time. I like warm, sunny. I like chilly mornings. I like cool evenings. I like sitting by a fire. Even after my house burned down, I still like sitting by a fire. I like sort of the middle of things. I appreciate people that like it really, really cold. And of course, where I live out here in the desert, there's a lot of people that love the summer when it's 100, 110, 120 degrees Fahrenheit for us in the United States. In the summertime, they're thrilled. I'm not. I don't love it when it's super, super hot. In fact, Michael and I are looking at spending a lot of time over at the beach for this coming summer, so that we can get out of the heat of the desert this year and be just over on the beach more. So getting back to the things that we desire, yes, we desire ease. We desire luxury. We desire peace. We desire joy. We desire happiness. We desire a lovely, easy life. And we all know, those of us that are practicing Taya and things like it, that we manifest our reality and that we are looking toward manifesting more of the things that we want to experience and less of the things that we don't, less of the obstacles. But what the stream has taught us, and I completely understand and believe, is that we aren't here just for the good stuff. We are not here just to manifest a life of ease. And I have to tell you, I have gotten to a point where my life is a life of ease, mostly. And I had manifested last year in 2022 a life that was getting really, really easy. I wasn't pushing a lot in the stream message. You notice I'm not really doing social media anymore. That just got to be really tedious. What's the messaging going to be this week, and how many times are you going to post, and you got to get on there and interact with so many people. And in the beginning, when I did that on Instagram, it was fun. I really enjoyed doing it, and I met a lot of great people that way. But then I just got bored with that, and then I started hiring other people to do it, and it just wasn't the same anymore. It was just somebody else pushing out. It's our content for sure, but somebody else was creating everything and pushing all of that stuff out, and it just becomes this machine. And in 2021, the stream business really became this kind of marketing machine, and I didn't like that. It just didn't feel right to me. It didn't feel authentic. To me, the message is here for all those that are aligned with it. People will find it, they'll discover it, whether it's now or years from now or whatever. And I'm going to do the things that feel right to me and putting it out there. So last year, I had gotten to where I was really focused on the house and I wasn't too concerned about the business. It just kind of, I kept it alive. It was, we had Patreon, we still had boot camp, and I still did the podcast. I really kept the things that I really enjoyed and I let all the other stuff just go. And my life got so easy and I was so content in every way that I knew that I was going to manifest some obstacles. And if you listen to the podcast with Walt, I think we put that out a couple of weeks ago. The podcast I did with Walt, he had reminded me in that podcast that back in September before the fire, I was on his show talking about how I was getting bored and my life was really easy and I needed to manifest some disruption. And sure enough, I did. The house burned down. So I manifested a lot of disruption. I manifested disruption with the house burning down. I manifested some disruption in my health because the weight that I put on during COVID, I was very at peace with. But then I started getting health issues and I wasn't at peace with having health issues. I love life. I love what I'm doing and I want to be able to stick around and do it more. And when your blood pressure is going up and your cholesterol is going up and your joint pain is getting worse and all this stuff because you're kind of letting yourself go, well, then you've got to pay attention to what's really going on. And the lesson that I've learned a long time ago is that you never solve that problem because you hate yourself or you hate how you look or you're demonizing yourself for what you're experiencing. You always heal and solve problems through higher vibration. So I needed to go through that experience of simply loving what I was experiencing to the point of allowing some things to spin out and then finding my way back to what I wanted to be experiencing yet again. So that is an example of how we as human beings, even when we become what you might want to call a master manifester, I've heard that term. I think I've used that term before. I don't really, it's a little cringeworthy to me, but the master manifester, when I'm manifesting living in a beautiful house, doing exactly what I want to do day after day, answering to no one, having all my needs met, really just being in joy and appreciation every day as I was, that got boring. I needed some challenge in my life. I needed some disruption, and I manifested disruption. The house burned down. Michael's mother passed as a result of the evacuation. Our dog got sick. My health problems started mounting, and suddenly it was like, wow, all that unraveled. Who knew that all of that stuff would unravel? And it did. And now it's led to this leveling up of a clearer understanding than ever before of the purpose of humanity, the purpose of being in physical, the purpose of the matrix, and having such a deep appreciation of all of it. And authentically, and I mean authentically, I don't mean any of this spiritual bypassing bullshit that you hear out there. Oh, love and light. I'm just love and light. I can't watch the news. I can't listen to any of that. I've got to protect myself from the 3D world because I'm beyond 3D. I'm 12D and 5D. You hear me joke about this stuff all the time. I kind of call that the bullshit of mainstream spirituality. And I know that's judgmental, but that's what I call it. Because there is that brand of spirituality out there, that everything is love and light, everything is good. But if you're having to bury your head in the sand and not participate in the matrix, and you're still hiding from it, then you're still part of it. I know now what it means to truly be out of the matrix. And that's what I'm sharing with all of you. That's what is just pouring out of me every time I turn on the camera and just start chatting, which is all I do these days, really, is a lot of that. We have the book forthcoming. I do need to kick into gear and get more involved in getting ready for the book. But, the book is excellent. I just went through it again. It was all channeled from the stream with some questioning from Kat. There's very little of David in there. There's a lot more stream. Kat is very entertaining. Little entertaining breaks from the stream in the book. And it really tells you what the practice is and what the purpose of the practice is. And the purpose of the Taya practice is to systematically raise your vibration. Really what the purpose of the practice is it will bring any human being back to their natural state of being in terms of being a soul-focused being, projecting in, having a human experience in a polarized environment, and allowing the ego to be the discerner of preference. So when I joke about sounding judgmental, it's because, yes, we are all judgmental because we're all discerners of preference. So where I draw the distinction between discerning preference and being judgmental, to me, preference is I don't care to experience that bypassing brand of spirituality. And I even poke fun at it a little bit, but I also poke fun at everything else, including myself. And I like that. I like that we can laugh at everything. This current day cancel culture where everyone's offended by everything and you need trigger warnings and you can't watch a comedy show without someone being deeply offended by it because they can't draw a distinction between someone that's making a joke and someone that's actually hating you and wishing that you didn't exist. Those are two separate things. Those are absolutely two separate things. And somehow humanity within the matrix has evolved, certainly, because it's a vibration. So we've created this vibration that is the matrix, and the matrix has evolved to the point of where we are wising up to it. We are coming to see it for what it is. But I do see a lot of folks coming to see it for what it is, only to create another layer of matrix and thus just contribute right back to it. The matrix is a brilliant creation because there's so many mechanisms that exist to draw us back into it. And the thing that draws us back into it, and you hear me say this all the time, but I'll say it again, that combination, and it's all really rooted in fear, but that fear judgment. And so by judgment, I mean stating that something shouldn't be. That's different. So when I hear, and I love comedians, I watched a Louis C.K. special last night. I love Dave Chappelle. I love all of them. Chris Rock, you name it. And they all make fun of everything. But sometimes there are certain people that get really offended because they are saying, I know Dave Chappelle got into a lot of trouble. There's a plane going overhead, if you can hear that. Dave Chappelle got into a lot of trouble for telling anti-trans jokes. Well, they weren't anti-trans jokes. They were just trans jokes. And he tells gay jokes. And I'm a gay man, and I think they're hilarious. And I laugh at them because I can tell in the joke, the vibration of the joke is not that gay people should not be. And he's not saying that trans people should not be. He's just making jokes about them like he does about himself and everything else. So that's the difference. That's important to really understand the difference between discerning preference and a simple joke, poking fun at ourselves, being able to laugh at ourselves, and labeling something as should not be. Where we get ourselves into trouble in terms of lowering vibration is always in that label of should not be. And when we stop labeling anything as should not be and start viewing the world with the intention of appreciation of all of it, that's when our source being is really in the driver's seat of our belief system and thus in the driver's seat of our life experience. That's what all of these teachings will always be about. It will always be about that because the lack of that should not be label, that should not be judgment, that is ego. That is your ego saying that only people that you agree with or discern as a preference to be exposed to are people that are like you. We see a whole lot of that. Those people should be. Everyone else is a threat to you somehow because the ego thinks that way. The ego is very singular. It's all about me. And that ego function is something that humanity developed, and the stream has called it as a mutation of the human experience. So that's what really separates us from the other beings in our environment. That labeling something as should not be. You know, I see animals have instincts, and they instinctually want to eat, they want to survive, they want to outrun their predators. They're operating in a food chain by and large, and in doing so, you know, they're reacting to things, and they want to thrive and they want to survive. And that's their version of ego that is driving them toward that. But they're not caught up in the should not be. I don't see any evidence of any animals being caught up in the labeling of something as should not be. I do see a lot of people trying to place human emotions on animals, especially people that are animal rights activists or people that are, talking about pets a lot of times. You know, like a dog is crying tears because of its owner. I have to tell you, I have a feeling that my dog Lola, I know she loves me in her own way as a person that provides for her and feeds her, and I'm very good to her. But I have a feeling that if I disappeared from the planet tomorrow, she would move on to another home and be just fine. Or she would be with Michael and be just fine. She would be okay. because they don't get caught up in that should not be. I shouldn't be experiencing this. My owner shouldn't be taken away from me. I shouldn't be, there's just that, none of that should not be present. So they haven't evolved through that hyper ego that humanity created for itself, that ultimately created the matrix. Well, the matrix is a lovely thing because the matrix is what created all of our comforts and all of our technology and all of our medicine and all of these things. The matrix, that's all a product of the matrix, because we judge something, or we labeled something as not a preference, but that powerful label of should not be is actually a motivator toward creation. But we all know the things that we continue to judge as should not be don't get solved. As long as we are judging them that way and lowering the vibration by judging them as should not be, they don't get solved. We do tend to solve things that we think, okay, that shouldn't be, but let's understand it, i.e. appreciate it, and then through our understanding of it, figure out how to move through that experience and move beyond it. Those things get solved. So those things get solved for humanity, and those things get solved in our lives. One of the biggest things that I have acquired in my Taya skill set and through all of the teachings of the stream is to stop judging the experience of others. That's probably the most difficult thing for any human being to acquire. That mindset where you're no longer judging the experience of others as should not be. I think it's easier to do it for ourselves. I think it's easier to make peace with the things that we suffer in than to make peace with what you're observing in someone else's suffering, whether it's an animal or a child or an elderly adult or whomever. I think that in my opinion, that is more difficult for people to release. That viewing someone else's experience and judging it as should not be. But you can, because that is the way Source is viewing everything that we're experiencing. The person that meets an early demise or a stressful situation or some sort of abuse or neglect or whatever the experience is, Source is saying that experience is that being's own manifestation for the suffering experience, for the chance of moving through the experience, out of the experience, having been expanded by the experience. And this is the interesting part, even if they don't make it in physical through the experience, they are expanded in the experience nonetheless. Meaning if someone is abused or neglected as a child and they become a drug addict and they become homeless and they end up dying and exiting their physical vehicle early on as a result of a drug overdose in this example, for whatever reason they were led there, their experience of having been the neglected child or the abused child or the troubled teen or however you want to describe that scenario, and even if they didn't survive it, their soul was still expanded in the experience of it. Just because it's not a human preference and ego doesn't mean that we don't expand in the negative experience. And it's very easy, I believe, to look back at the painful times in our lives. And a lot of people will say, well, the universe sent me that to teach me that lesson. And I understand how it seems that way. But if you are accepting responsibility for all your manifestations, for all of your creations, as we do in these teachings, then you accept that was your manifestation. Well, why would you manifest something unwanted? That's the problem that people that don't really understand or wrestle with the concept of law of attraction, that's what they always say is, why would anyone manifest having cancer? How would a child manifest being abused? Well, there are pre-birth intentions of our soul to come and have a certain type of experience. And in that experience can be all of these things that we are taught to judge as should not be. Now, I certainly understand why we can look at something like that and would prefer those things not to happen. I would prefer that no child is ever abused again, certainly. I would prefer that no one experiences illness or poverty again. I would prefer that there were no homeless people. That would be great. But we're in this tapestry of creation, and it's simply not that way. All of these souls are here having these different experiences. Some are experiencing being homeless, some are experiencing illness, some are experiencing abuse and neglect, and all of these things. And if you think about it, it's understandable to say, I prefer not to experience that. But the label of should not be is kind of silly as long as it is. Oh, that should not be. Well, why not? Who are you to say that that should not be? Because it is. Someone's manifesting that experience. So you're sort of elevating yourself, thinking that you get to decide that no one should be experiencing that. Yes, I understand it would be lovely if no one were experiencing suffering, but we do suffer. We all do. We all do. We all come and experience some level of suffering and different levels of suffering throughout our lifetime. Some of us come and experience a very brief lifetime. Some of us don't make it out of the womb. Some of us make it all the way to 100 plus years old. I think the latest I've heard is like somebody's almost 120 years old on this planet right now. So we have this range of experiences that we see. And obviously to me, there's no such thing as should not be, because there is. So someone is experiencing that. So let's stop saying that it shouldn't be. We can discern a preference that we would rather not experience these things. And in the solving of some of these experiences, we do expand. We expand as a species when we solve things collectively. When the latest, in the United States, the big topic right now is school shootings. It has been for years. We're not solving it because all we do is demonize it. All we do is demonize it. We have one side saying no more guns, and the other side saying it's all mental illness, or it's, wokeism that's causing all this, or trying to, pin it on something. And that's not what it is. What it is that there is a human created vibration and a lot of fear and judgment fueling it that keeps it alive. We are collectively as a people giving it life and our focus upon it in this vibration. So when we move beyond the demonization of it and the should not be portion of that and move into appreciation of it, which outside of these walls sounds insane. How in the hell can you appreciate school shootings? Children are shot. That's crazy. Appreciation means deep understanding. Seek to understand what is the driving force behind this activity, because it hasn't always been, and it certainly isn't happening everywhere. It's unique. So, okay, doesn't have to be, but it is. So we can't say it shouldn't be, because it is. So if we stop with the shouldn't be and stop with the polarized infighting, which solves nothing as we see, and move toward deeper understanding of and appreciation of as Source sees it, that's the healing power. That's the solving power. Now, are we as Taya practitioners going to solve school shootings? Probably not. There aren't many of us. There aren't many people out here on this leading edge of thought where we are actively aligning ourselves with Source. But for your personal life experience, you find this amazing way to live life, and that you're no longer judging anything that you observe as should not be. And you're there, and this is important, you're there when you can play in the matrix anywhere, anytime, in any way. And I say play because it's a very different experience to be in the matrix, but not of the matrix. And when you're there, when you can play in the matrix and not be triggered by it, not be drawn back into it. Be in it, be part of it, be observant of it, be as involved in anything as you want, and simply do it from a standpoint of appreciation. And I can tell you, I'm reading an investment book right now, and it's a Robert Kiyosaki book. Gosh, I forget what it's called. It just popped out of my head. But anyway, it doesn't matter. I'll put it back in here. But it talks about 4 quadrants. It's something about wealth quadrant or cash flow quadrant. That's what it's called. And it's written several years ago. But I read his first book, Rich Dad Poor Dad. I love that book. I recommend it to lots of people. I think it's a great book because it's about mindset, the mindset of wealth. And what he talks about in both of these books, but the cash flow quadrant is actually an excellent follow-up book. A lot of times people will write a book and they'll have a big hit and they'll come out with something else that's kind of like it just to sell more books. He didn't do that. He actually wrote something very different than his first book and his second book, assuming those were his first two books. In this quadrant book, he talks about the four types of income. He talks about employment income. He talks about self-employment income. He talks about business income, and he talks about investing income. And he gleefully talks about how investors don't pay income tax because the world is set up for investors. The world is set up for rich people because rich people are the ones that are driving all politics and everything else, and it really is set up for them. It's very easy in the matrix to see something like that as being very callous. Oh, well, you entitled, rich, privileged person, how dare you brag about not paying any income tax when this poor school teacher is paying income tax and they're struggling and they're just trying to make ends meet. We need to tax you and eat the rich. And, all of this stuff, we're going to demonize, that person. Well, all of that demonization just fuels it. So if you want to demonize the 1%, well, great. You're just fueling them. You are contributing to their wealth and their status and their quote unquote privilege because you are demonizing them for being at the top of the wealth pyramid. But he very openly says, this is reality. This is how it is. You can like it or not, but if you're reading this book, it's because you want to have more money. So even if you're not at the top, you want to be there. So at that point, if you want to be there and you're demonizing it, what is that? That's jealousy. That's envy. That's not a very high vibration. So you're demonizing the top of the pyramid, yet you state that you want to be there because you're reading a book about being wealthy. Well, if you're going to step into the vibration of wealth, you're also going to step into the vibration of understanding that the entirety of humanity is driving all commerce, that we're all in it. We're all part of it. We're all a player in commerce. And the people at the bottom of that financial pyramid are the ones that are demonizing it the most. Oh, the system is terrible. It's awful. It's so unfair. I shouldn't be down here. I should be making more money. I shouldn't have to work for a living or whatever it is. The people at the top it's the people at the top are evil and we need to eat the rich and they're all terrible and they're all awful. But I want to be them. I just can't be. But right now, while I'm not, I'm going to demonize them. It's really entertaining to me. So it just shows you how vibration works and how the matrix works. That the things that you're demonizing and the things that you're labeling as should not be are the things that you're feeding. And once you stop demonizing and stop feeding and just appreciate, you can read a book like that and say, yeah, that's true. Obviously, our political system and our financial system, which are one and the same, essentially are created and driven and fueled by the wealthiest people. So the wealthiest 1%, even though we're supposedly in this democracy, the wealthiest 1% get their way. They get all of their tax breaks. They get the things, the business breaks that they want and all the things that they really want to do. And the book goes on to talk about which quadrant do you want to be in? Do you want to be a hardworking employee working to make someone else rich? Or do you want to be a hardworking self-employee, meaning that you are working really, really hard in your own business, maybe to make yourself rich or not? Or do you want to be a business owner or a business person? And by that, it's more like a business owner where you're not really actively working in the business. You have other people working for you that run the business. You just own it. Or do you want to be an investor where you're outside the business and you're just putting money into it as an investor and you're reaping the rewards of being an investor and taking the risk of being an investor, certainly. And it talks about the different personalities. But as I read it, it's very, very clear, and I've known this before reading this book, certainly, but it's very, very clear in the book that he is pushing you toward that investor because as an investor, your money is making money for you. You don't have to work. You don't have to answer to anyone, and your money is just making money for you. I do hear a lot of people in the world of law of attraction talking about, I just want to manifest money with no work. And the stream has always said to those questions, because that's not really our thing. That's more of an Abrahamish thing. They're really, really about law of attraction and financial and material abundance and stuff like that. But that can be part of this for sure, and that the set of tools that we call Taya can solve that for a lot of people. But that concept of it has to be without doing anything. Well, I can tell you firsthand that I have manifested a scenario in my life where all my needs were met. I was living in luxury and I wasn't doing a whole hell of a lot. And it got very boring. And I needed to demanifest it ultimately because it, there wasn't enough. There wasn't enough contrast. There wasn't enough challenge in that. We need challenge of some sort. That's why you do see people that are very successful financially that have sort of retired and they're just um, doing nothing but loving life certainly, but not having any challenge in life because they're so quote unquote comfortable. Manifest illness. I saw my father do this. He worked for 35 years in a school system to have a full pension at retirement. He and his wife both, and they retired very comfortably. Built a beautiful new house. They had nice new cars. They traveled. Uh, didn't really have a whole lot to do. And my father got ill and has been a very sick, quote unquote, old man ever since he retired, where he was healthy before that. Before retirement, he was a healthy man. Post retirement, he's got all these things wrong with him all the time. And his whole life is doctor appointment after this medication and that medication and this therapy and this surgery. I can't tell you how many surgeries he's had and how much stuff he's had. He has manifested the experience of being a sick old man because he was so comfortable. He didn't have anything else to do. So those of us that slip into that comfort, one way or another, we are going to disrupt that manifestation of comfort because we are not here for comfort. We are here for challenge. Now, a lot of times we develop a belief that challenge needs to be hard work. It can be. I have certainly been a very hard worker in my lifetime. When I'm really passionate about something, I'm a very hard worker. I like, and by hard work, I mean just putting in long hours and really putting a lot of effort into something. I have put a lot of effort into things. I've put a lot of effort into the Stream of David, certainly. Not as much in the last 2 years, but the first few years that I was doing it, I was so passionate about it and so driven by it that I was putting a lot of work into it, and then that kind of bled over into some other vibrations that were more fear-based that I needed to clean up, and I did. So when we talk about that label of should not be and understanding what it means to be a source aligned or source, I hate, let's not, I don't want to say source aligned anymore because it sounds like, you're a sinner and I'm not, and I'm better than you. Just allowing more of your own source being to emerge in your operating system. I need to find a simpler way of saying that, but that's what I really mean. Source aligned, we're all source aligned. We're all beings of source. Many people just have an ego that is so well developed. I'm getting attacked now by flies. Maybe that means it's time to end this. An ego that is so well developed that we are overshadowing that source version of us to have our human experience. That's by design. But what we're doing in the Taya practice is we are detuning that ego and allowing it to return to its original programming, if you will, which is simply being a discerner of preference in this environment. I like this. I don't like that. I want to experience this. I don't want to experience that. And leaving it at that. And realize that when it elevates to the should not be, or I'm superior, or I need to be heard, or any of that stuff, then it's stepping up a little too much. And we can detune it by allowing more source. We don't have to push it down, really. What happens is the more we appreciate all that is, the more we are one with source, and the more that source being steps out as our primary vibration and our primary operating system. So I have to find a new simple way of describing that source, but I am getting attacked by flies, so I think I'm going to shut this broadcast down. So let me know in the comments on Patreon what you're interested in, and as far as if I'm going to discontinue the Sunday show. I noticed throughout this broadcast, we've certainly had some live listeners. I've had a lot of people that kind of pop on and pop off. And I think it's because people are really, really busy on Sunday and they watch the recording. Well, I love to do this live. This is the live stream tier of Patreon, where you can all be on live with me. Maybe even do some things in the future where you're on with me and we can discuss these things. I would love to do that. So let us know in the comments days and times and things that you would enjoy doing that. Would it be an evening? Would it be a weekday afternoon? I don't think the weekends are it, because the weekends haven't been as attended as the weekday stuff that we do. So let me know. Just let me know in the Patreon comments what really works for you and what you would like to see in terms of content. And if you'd be interested in coming on a panel and doing some panel discussions of this stuff a little bit more, because I would love to do that as well. Thank you so much for watching, and enjoy the rest of your Sunday.